All right, what is going on? This is the post-match discussion for Manchester United's win. Gotta get used to saying that. Manchester United's win over Brighton, 4-2. Let me get my stuff sorted here. I had to go and eat a quick lunch before I came back to this, so still half chewing my food over here. Okay, let me get that sorted, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I'm going to read some stats from my phone so I can save my computer's bandwidth. Otherwise, the stream gets all jittery and whatnot, and that's annoying. So, final score: 4 goals for United, 2 for Brighton. Cunha scored 24th minute, followed by Casemiro deflection, 34th minute. Bryan Mbeumo 61st minute. But then Brighton came storming back with a beautiful Danny Welbeck free kick, and then a goal by Castulas to make it 3-2, setting up for a nervy finish for Manchester United. But of course, who else but Brian? Those crazy Bryans, they always come through. Put the game to bed in the 7th minute of stoppage time. Now, let's go through the stats. So, 13 shots for United, 15 for Brighton, 9 shots on target for Manchester United, 5 shots on target for Brighton, 58% possession in favor of Brighton, 86% pass accuracy for Manchester United. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stop there because we haven't seen numbers like that in quite a while. We've not seen Manchester United having like 9 shots on target in quite a while, I would say. 9 quality shots, too. So I'm adding a little bit of the old eye test there. 9 quality shots on target. It wasn't like, they just kind of rolled the keeper. Like, we were forcing their keeper into some saves. And then the 86% pass accuracy, that is also a number that we have not seen in quite a while for our guys in red here. Typically, the pass accuracy is somewhere around 82%, even 79%. So our passing is getting much more accurate, and we're going much more direct. Now, tactically, I like what Amram did. Amram had us set up in a high press to disrupt Brighton's, possession-based style. I think Brighton were caught off guard by that. I think they thought we were going to sit back and allow them to march up the pitch. And you saw in the second half, when we sat back, Brighton were allowed to get the pitch and be a lot more dangerous. So, again, very smart move from Amarim to set us up high up the pitch tactically and to press high and to disrupt Brighton. I mean, you saw Brighton were struggling to get out of their own box, let alone half. They were struggling back there, and we nicked it away a few times and got shots off and scored. Probably could have had a few more had we been a little bit more organized in our when Brighton turned over the ball. So, I mean, hats off to Amram for that tactical setup, right? And this is coming from a guy who was Amram out since Grimsby, right? I started turning the corner against Liverpool. I'm turning it a bit more now. And this is not me hopping on the bandwagon. This is because Amram is changing the things that I complained about before. He's being more, he's being less stubborn, right? He's changing his tactics a bit more. He's showing more in-game management, right? Still some places to improve, and I'll get to that in a minute. But that's why I'm coming around. It's not just, oh, we're winning now. Now I'm, no. Even if we were winning, I'd still be iffy if we were winning in these, kind of edgy ways, right? Like not really winning the match, kind of just, scamming it, right? But I'm seeing the tactical changes. I'm seeing the improvements, and that's why I'm turning around. But anyway, it's not about me right now feeling how I feel about Amram. It's about you guys, your thoughts, and talking about another 3 points that Manchester United have in the bag at the moment. The first goal, and again, apologies for reading from my phone. I don't want to do it from my computer because it'll kill my bandwidth, and then I'll get all jittery, and you won't be able to see me or understand me. First goal from Cunha was beautiful. That Casemiro goal, I mean, sometimes you make your own luck, right? Yes, it was a huge deflection, but the work to force the turnover from Brighton was done, and that warranted a goal. So sometimes you make your own luck, right? Then the third Mbeumo goal, again, just, beautiful, right? Sheer hard work. Giving up the foul, for that Welbeck free kick. I mean, what can you say, right? Danny Welbeck scoring against Manchester United is like the sun rising the next day. It's most likely going to happen. So you kind of knew it was coming at some point, right? I thought maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't happen today, but he's like, nope, Nope. Still happening. So that happened. I mean, that was a beautiful free kick. Maybe Lamens could have lined up a bit more to his right side. Maybe he could have jumped a bit earlier, but still, I mean, the pace that that ball had, the way it got up and down and curved just slightly at the end. I mean, really got to give credit to Welbeck on that one, right? You can't really do much about that. So beautiful goal there. Um, Now that Castua's goal, I was disappointed with Xerxes on that goal. I was about to pull my hair out, and I've got only a little bit of hair left here, right? I have to borrow some of Xerxes. But I was disappointed with him on that goal. That was his man. And I was bigging him up too. I was like, I'm ready to see Xerxes on the pitch. I hope that we score a bunch of goals. So Xerxes and Manu in heaven, and even Malacia could get on the pitch, right? Um, but yeah, Xerxes for that goal, that was his man. And he got beat to the ball. And, you know, if I'm walking away from that and I'm Joshua Xerxes, I'm like, I had some good touches, some good flicks. I was connecting the play, and then I let that happen. So I hope he recovers from that mentally, because that can be a bit of a blow, right? When you're playing well and you make kind of a you have a bad mistake like that. So that was on Xerxes. Um, but then obviously Mbeumo does what Mbeumo does. Like I said, those crazy Bryans, they just always come through. And and he put the game to bed. Now, what I was saying earlier about the tactics, right? When we were pressing Brighton high up the pitch, they struggled mightily. They could not get out of their own box barely. When we sat back and allowed Brighton to have the ball and to march up the pitch is when things started to look bad for us, right? I mean, obviously there was a huge momentum shift once they scored that free kick, but before that, you saw it kind of coming because we were sitting off. You saw some tired legs. You saw some players who were out of position and weren't getting back in position as quickly as they were, and we were sitting back deeper. And Brighton took advantage of that, um, and ultimately, almost tied up the match. So you saw tactically where we fell apart, but you also saw on the other side, the flip side of the coin, tactically where we destroyed Brighton, right? Because if you watch that match, if you watch that first half, you're like, this is going to be a 5-6 nothing match. I mean, Brighton were struggling. They were frustrated. They were passing the ball out of bounds. They passed the ball out of bounds 5 times, I believe, at least in that first half. And it wasn't like a long range pass. It was like maybe a 20, 30 yard pass, and they're kicking it out of bounds. They were frustrated, right? You saw Dunk yelling and pointing. You saw Baleba, who had a crap game too, um, and whatnot. I tell you what, though, that Minta and Watson from Brighton, I'd be looking at those guys. Not bad at all. Not bad, Watson and Minta. I'd be looking at them ahead of Baleba in the current form, because Baleba looked like crap. 100 million pounds for that? Nah. Like, I mean, and look, I was saying, oh, it would be good to have Baleba, but I was going off of, a few stats and a few games I had seen last season. I hadn't watched Brighton much this season. So I'll put my hands up and say, yeah, I was wrong about pushing that agenda, because he looked bad this game. Jumping under the ball, getting knocked off of it easily, making bad passes. Yeah. So hopefully that price tag comes down, and hopefully he rediscovers his form. And maybe we get him in a bargain, and then we get the best out of him in the future. But anyway, um, yeah, Watson and Menta. Looking at them, keep my eye on those two now. Um, but apart from that, who's your player of the match? That's the big question. Who's your player of the match? I'm going to put that in the chat here. Who is your player of the match, or man of the match, however you want to phrase it? I think bias because of the first name, I guess. Bryan Mbeumo is my man of the match. He's my player of the match. It was with Cunha, and for a while there was a shout between Ahmad, Bruno, Cunha, and Mbeumo. But because of that last goal that really kind of put it away, and because he kept running and was tireless throughout the match, I got to give it to Mbeumo. But not by much. It's a bit of a close call. Sorry, I'm getting a little laggy there. Let me just make sure my stuff is closed. Um, Yeah, things are closed, so it should be good. Sorry about the little bit of lag there. Um, but yeah, I would say Mbeumo, my man of the match. I think, like I said, he was tireless. He strung things together. He fought back, to get the ball back. He did a lot of good things. But there are a lot of guys who did a lot of good things. Um, like I said, there's a shout for Ahmad at times. There's a shout for Bruno too. And I know who like has quietly put together a string of good matches. Shaw. Almost said Dallo. Shaw has quietly put together a string of good matches. Um, yeah, I'm putting in the chat. Sorry, lagging a bit. I don't know why my internet is being weird. Let's see if that straightens itself out there. I think it is. Okay. I think we're back. I think we're back. Okay. I think we're back. Um, anyway, um, Shaw has strung together some good performances. He's staying fit and he's doing a really solid job back there across the back line. I think that's gone a little bit unnoticed because of all the, talk around Amram in or out, and can we do it three in a row, and all the other stuff going on with the club. I think Shaw has flown under the radar in terms of putting together some good performances. Now, you know, I would have to say that Dallo had a decent game today. He had a decent game today. I know I kind of went in on him a bit in the starting lineup, and I was like, oh, I don't want to see Dallo again on that left wing back side, but he had some mistakes for sure. But he wasn't any worse than anybody else, and I feel like everyone played pretty well today. And you saw a few times he had a little flair, he had a little heel flick, a little step over, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, right? A little razzle dazzle going on, as we say here in America. So I was mildly impressed with Dallo as well today. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and again, right, with like wins like this, especially coming from where we come from, it's hard to pick out anything negative. You don't want to pick out anything negative because you don't want to burst a balloon. You want to keep riding that feel good wave. Um, like I said, the only negative I can pick out really was apart from some of Anthony Taylor's calls. Oh my goodness. Like that should have been a penalty on Ahmad. Let me not forget that. While that's on my mind, let me just like a clear foul in the box. How do you miss that? And I'm sure VAR was in his ear saying you need to have a look. And he would just felt like he was, Mr. Big Man today and was like, no, and waved it off. Clear penalty, clear penalty, clear penalty. Anyway, um, but the negative, like I said, aside from some of his calls, was again Xerxes letting the Brighton player get in front of him and score that goal, right? So that kind of puts a little bit of a stain on the match. It's like, okay, we've scored 4 goals. It's the most goals we scored in a while. I can't remember last time we scored 4 goals in a match. Um, but then to have to let in two. It's like, okay, again, you can understand a beautiful free kick, but that one that Xerxes let in, that one stings, and that one's gonna ring for a while. Now, the other thing I want to talk about very quickly is Manu. So I tweeted it out. Manu, he looks rusty. He looks very rusty. And when he first came in, I was like, oh no, you know, like you're not doing yourselves any favors, man. Um, he picked it up. He picked up as the match went on, and he needs to be playing more, obviously, to get into his rhythm. He's not a player who can just ride the bench and then turn it on as soon as he's on the pitch. He's not that kind of player. He's got to play, get into his groove, into his rhythm. You know. Sorry, I know I look silly doing that. Cut that part out. Fast forward through that part. Anyway, he's got to get into his groove, into his rhythm before he starts to show his stuff. Now, again, what worried me is the lack of pace. And I know We're in a feel good moment, and I don't want to point out negative things, but I have to, commentate and share what I see. And again, you guys get in the chat too. Get in the chat, let me know, right? Let me know. This is supposed to be a conversation back and forth. Um, but you saw he got outran a couple times, and Casemiro, it happens to him plenty of times too. Casemiro doesn't have the legs of pace anymore either, but Casemiro is smart with his positioning. He's got that experience. Kobe doesn't have that, and that's the thing you kind of saw when Kobe came on. Okay, yeah, he got outpaced, but also his anticipation, his positioning, um, wasn't quite where it needed to be to cover for the lack of pace. Um, I mean, I'd love it if Kobe would actually watch Casemiro a bit, or maybe Casemiro would take Kobe under his wing, and rather than Kobe trying to replace um, Bruno, and I'm not saying Kobe's a defensive midfielder, but just to learn a bit more in terms of like positioning and anticipating, learn that from Casemiro, right? Because Casemiro is a master at it. You saw how he, cut things out, was already in the right position. But again, he doesn't have the legs to sprint. You saw it, right? He's not going to run away from anybody, but he's already in the right spot, right? And I wish Kobe would learn that because Kobe's not the fastest either. But like I said, though, to come back positive, as the game went on with Kobe in it, you saw him grow into it and get more involved. And that's the thing, is that he needs to play. He needs to play. So this whole riding the bench thing and saying that he's competing with Bruno, you're spoiling a good player. You're spoiling a good player. But speaking of Bruno, uh, I can't remember what minute it was, but Bruno, passed it around the defender one way and ran the other way. I'm like, where did that speed come from, Bruno? I didn't know you had that in your locker. Bruno usually he kind of cruises with the ball, right? Like Bruno is kind of like a 57 Chevy, right? He cruises with the ball, right? But suddenly he turned into a little Nissan Altima for a second there and zipped around really quickly. For those who drive, especially here in America, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Nissan Altimas, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, um, yeah. So, you know, surprise from that speed from Bruno. But again, to me, across the pitch, across the team, even from the bench, including Amram, good performance again. You know, some games are like this, 4-2. Some games are 4-0. Some games are 1-0, 2-1, right? It runs the gamut. The thing that matters is winning. And we've won again. We've won 3 in a row. Sunderland, Liverpool, Brighton, all good teams. All good teams. So what's that saying about us now? Are we a good team now? You guys let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. Are we a good team now? We've beaten some good teams. We've got Forest next, right? So again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but that should definitely be a winnable match, right? It's an away match. But again, we can handle away. We went to Liverpool and won. So we can handle the away pressure. So, I mean, are we back? Are we back? Is this, are the good days back? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. Let me just see where that puts us right now in the live standings. All right, so that puts us 5th right now in the live standings. Obviously, Liverpool and Brentford are playing right now. Hopefully, Brentford can do us a favor. And then who did Bournemouth have? Bournemouth are going to play Forest tomorrow, so Bournemouth will probably beat Forest. That puts Bournemouth ahead. If Brentford do us a favor, Bournemouth probably win. So they jump ahead of us. So kind of like the way I started with my prediction, my match prediction yesterday. We could see ourselves probably in 6th or 7th by the end of the weekend, and we started out in 9th. So go in the right direction. We'll probably be in 6th or 7th. We've got 16 points. Let's say the teams ahead of us. Let's say Liverpool. I mean, even if they win, they're on 19. City win, they're on 19. So yeah. Who knows? I mean, or 5th. Depends. It depends, right? Either way, we're getting up and around it. That's the key thing too. We're getting up and around it. right? Currently in 5th place in a European spot. Can we get into a Champions League spot? We can go on a run here. We can go on a run of games because we've got Forest next. Then we got Spurs. Spurs might be tricky, but who says we can't get past them? Everton might be tricky as well. That's after the next international break, which I can't believe is another freaking international break. We've got Forest on the 1st, we've got Spurs on the 8th, and then we got another international break until the 24th. So it's like another, what, 2 weeks at least off? Like, I'm so sick of these international breaks. I'm so sick of them. Anyway, after Everton, we've got Palace. That'll be tough. Then West Ham, we should beat them. Wolves, Bournemouth, Villa, Newcastle, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley. Then we've got City and Arsenal back to back. So there's winnable games in that bunch. And honestly, my definition of winnable has changed a bit, right? Before it was just maybe a Wolves or a Burnley, right? Since we already beat Burnley. Maybe a West Ham and a Villa, right? Those are my winnable games. But now I'm like, okay, we've beaten Sunderland, Liverpool, and Brighton. Suddenly, all those games look like winnable games. Not saying we're going to win them all, because that's not how football goes, unless you're, Arsenal back in the day. But it might be time to believe. Might be time to believe that we might get a top 4 finish. And the other thing too is we gotta stay healthy. That's the other thing. We gotta stay healthy. Because if we had to start some of the guys that came on, it'll be a challenge. It'll be much more challenging. But this is why we have to strengthen in January. Surgeon Ratcliffe has got to back Ruben Amorim in January. No ifs, ands, or buts. You came out, you publicly backed him. We've got 3 games now, right, that we've won in a row. We're gonna have to battle it out to get to January. Pray there's no injuries. But then, Surgeon Ratcliffe, you got to put your money where your mouth is, and you need to bring in at least one center mid. You have to. You have to bring in a center mid. So, otherwise, I think a lot of this progress will be for naught, right? I feel like second half of the season, injuries. Now we're in our bench, and we're starting to struggle. So we have to go into the market in January. If we go through January and don't sign a center mid, I would be extremely disappointed, and you should be extremely disappointed as well, because we're building on something here at the moment, right? You can all feel it. You can all feel it. And I feel like that Mbeumo goal it was like this the entire spirit of Manchester United. Players past and present, fans past and present, those who have passed on, it felt like everyone just like blew that ball into the back of the net, right? For us to make sure that we won today. It felt like one of those moments where it's like the entire, like, if you watch Dragon Ball Z, but like when Goku does that spirit bomb thing, and he has his hand up and all the people in the world have their hands up and they're sending him his energy. It felt like that for that Mbeumo goal, to seal the victory. It felt like every Manchester United fan, past, present, every player, past, present, even those who have gone on, were like sending down energy and sending energy, and that ball went up in the back of the net. Right? That's what it felt like. So, I mean, it feels like we are building something magical here. This could be a magical season on all fronts, because the ladies are doing big things too. So this could be a great season for Manchester United as a club as a whole. But anyway, I don't want to get too long with this. I'm already coming up on 25 minutes. I try to keep these fairly short, right? Kind of, you got things to do and I got things to do. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know who your man of the match is. And I will see you probably tomorrow for a news show. But yeah, let me know what you think, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.